In half an hour on 2, Sam Beckett quantum leaps into the body of a glam rock singer in 1974. First, bubbly and birds in Food and Drink.
Greetings once again and a very warm welcome to Food and Drink and to our countdown to Christmas, of course. But first of all, someone else is appealing for help from agony aunt Michael Barry, Mrs. Anne George by name, of Nantwich in Cheshire. I know it well. She spends hours taking indigestible seeds out of currants before cooking them, she says, and here they are lovingly packeted. It all sounds rather relaxing to me. But the question is from Mrs. George, Michael, shouldn't currants be seedless? Answer me that.
Well, in an ideal world they should be, but unfortunately the weather in Greece, where most of our currants come from, is variable, so sometimes they have more seeds than others. The Australians, cunning fellows, not satisfied with beating the barbarians, have invented the seedless currant. You can buy them in health food shops and particularly in Holland and Barrett. Being a cunning fellow myself, I've invented or developed a couple of really wonderful recipes for stuffing the turkey. This one's full of Eastern promise. It's saffron-rich and fragrant, and this is an Old English-style one with herbs and butter and is marvellous for a traditional Sunday lunch.
East meets west on Turkey, and we follow British master chef John Burton Race to Spain. He's fighting tooth and nail against 14 other European chefs to produce the best three-course meal and win a prize from the King of Spain himself.
On another fizzy subject, we've got the best sparklers for you at under 10 quid a bottle. We're looking at the cheapest champagnes against sparkling wines from all over the world. Nothing but the best, and we'll have them for you later.
Yeah, and between £6 and £7, we've got 2 world-class wines.
Sounds like a snip. But first this week, a roundup of some of the latest food and drink news. Bottle-conditioned Guinness, the sort only found in pubs and held by connoisseurs to be one of the world's best beers, is to be withdrawn from sale in April. Yesterday, CAMRA, the Campaign for Real Ale, handed in a petition at Guinness headquarters in London, asking the company not to replace it with the normal pasteurised version. Bottle-conditioned Guinness like this continues to ferment after bottling because the yeast isn't removed. It's this live quality, according to experts, that gives it its special qualities. Guinness, however, reply that they can't guarantee the consistency of the product. And they add that in their own survey, most people couldn't tell the difference between conditioned Guinness and the pasteurised variety. Well, I have a feeling Gilly probably can.
I'm a great fan of real pub Guinness, so yes, I hope I can tell the difference. On the nose, I prefer this one. There's a big difference. I hope I'm right in thinking that's the pub one, because it's infinitely nicer.
Yeah, you're on the money.
I am. I'm very pleased, because this one has a nice sort of purity to it, a delicacy, whereas this one, which is dead as a dodo, it's been pasteurised, has a slightly acrid nose and a very, very bitter finish. Not as nice. They're not the same thing. And I've also tasted bottles of Guinness from around the country to see if the argument that consistency can't be relied upon also holds water. And so London, York, Manchester, Plymouth, Guinness from all over there, they're all members of the same family. They all have minimal differences between them, hardly anything at all, and they're all very nice. I mean, it doesn't matter they're not the same, nor are one wine to another wine exactly the same. It's a living product. Now, bottled conditioned stout is an endangered species, but there are 3 that are available. Here they are, and I found another beer to win my heart. I've been seduced again. It's terrible. Every week it seems to happen. This Black Russian is just nectar. It is the most delicious thing. So if you were miserable about the death of your endangered species, the real Guinness, don't worry. Black Russian is going to plug the gap. It'll be widely available from February, and it has my vote. It is fabulous.
Next, the teaching of food and nutrition in our schools is under threat. The government is due to make a decision on its fate later this month, but some teachers fear that it may disappear altogether. Michael.
It's a real worry, because I believe it's essential to maintain home economics. It's the knowledge of food and nutrition that creates the skills that underpin the nation's health and are the basis of the comforts and pleasures of family life. The national curriculum currently groups food under the general subject heading of technology, and that includes metalwork and woodwork. But June Scarborough of the National Association of Teachers of Home Economics and Technology says that food and nutrition is gradually being squeezed out by hard technology subjects like engineering. Some food departments are already closing down, and she's even been contacted by a Welsh home economics teacher who's been told to retrain in electronics. In the summer, these GCE exam guidelines were published. They say that an examination in food is only a minor option. Margaret Haig, a home economics teacher from Gosforth in Newcastle, says that this could signal the demise of home economics as a distinct subject altogether. John Patton, Secretary of State for Education, is currently reconsidering the curriculum for technology, and he's now under strong pressure to make food a compulsory subject. If you agree, and I certainly do, then you can make your voice known to the National Curriculum Council. Their address is on CFAX.
And now a whole new way of saving money in the supermarket. Vicky Kim reports on a fresh idea in the US.
When shopping, many of us stick to the brands we know, but we can be swayed by special offers. And now, a revolutionary computerized system in American supermarkets called Catalina aims to change our buying habits. At the checkout, coupons are printed out offering discounts on products similar to those you've bought, but made by rival companies.
What Catalina does is interact with the consumer one-on-one and target messages or incentives based on what that consumer is buying. So when that customer comes by with his or her groceries, we can look inside that basket and deliver a coupon that is meaningful to that customer.
The Catalina system can tell exactly what you've bought by reading the barcodes on packaging. Manufacturers pay for coupons to be printed each time a rival product is registered. So if you've bought your favourite white loaf, for instance, you'll get a coupon enticing you to buy a loaf made by a completely different company. And brand disloyalty seems to be catching on.
Systems like this, in this store, is great. Whereas you just run the coupon through and the reduction in price is made automatically. That is superb.
If I can use these coupons, I will.
British supermarkets are also considering the ultimate in competition, and Asda are running trials in selected stores. So far, they say that British shoppers are as bargain hungry as their American counterparts, and they'll decide whether to go nationwide with the scheme in the new year.
Our reporter was Vicky Kim. And finally, a row has broken out over whether elderly people should take vitamin pills. Dr. Ranjit Chandra from Canada found that men and women over 65 who took vitamin pills spent half as much time being ill as those who didn't. But the British Nutrition Foundation say that it's better to get our vitamins from food, whatever our age. The elderly, they say, have a particular need for vitamins D and C, as well as calcium and energy. And they can be found in foods like these. So, Michael, what's it to be, fruit or pills?
There's no question that a balanced diet of fresh food is a basis for good health. But the latest research is suggesting that the recommended dose of some vitamins may be low, and none of us can guarantee a perfect diet. So although, unlike Kelly, I'm not sort of edging towards 65 yet, I take a vitamin supplement regularly. No need for that with this, though, because this is fresh food, fresh stuffings for the turkey. Two really lovely dishes. The first one, which was taught me by Maro Jaffrey, actually some years ago, is based on rice. There's 8 ounces of cooked long grain rice in there. And in this bowl, I've got a large carrot that's been diced and cooked for about 5 minutes with an ounce of butter. In the pan that came from, without washing it out, I'm going to put a couple of ounces of almonds, the grated rind of an orange, 2 ounces of caster sugar, and this. This is saffron, the most expensive spice in the world. It costs the same as gold, weight for weight, and it comes from the flowers of an autumn crocus. You can make it yourself if you've got 3,000 autumn crocuses and the time, but that's why it's so expensive. Wonderful flavour and aroma. 6 ounces of water. Bring that to the boil and simmer it for about 30 minutes until it comes out looking like that. Now then, the cooked carrot goes back in there. Add the butter as well, it is Christmas. And 2 ounces of sultanas to add just that little bit of extra sweetness and flavour. Turn it all round till the gold coating covers the whole thing. They used to use saffron to gild birds with at Christmas in medieval times. They made a mixture of sugar and water and saffron and covered the birds, and it looked like they'd been gilded. Now you add all of that to the rice and scrape all the bits out, if you can, quite carefully. And then stir that into the rice, and as you can see, it'll turn the rice gold, and that is the basis for a stuffing. wonderful fragrant stuffing can be cooked also in a dish alongside the turkey. This one's a more European and much more basic one. 10 ounces of breadcrumbs, 4 ounces of chopped parsley, 2 ounces of celery leaf also chopped, and a bunch of spring onions dealt with in the same way. Good pinch of thyme, good pinch of black pepper, large good pinch of salt, and some butter. I can do this with my hand because the good fun bit's about to start. That's 4 ounces of butter and 2 eggs. And then the scrunch. You give it a wonderful squeezy scrunch and it turns into a bright green and extremely light stuffing that has a surprisingly good texture when you cook it. It doesn't go heavy and it's absolutely delicious. What you do with it is then you stick it in the crop end of the turkey. Now the crop end, because the main bit of the turkey needs a bit of air to cook through. I've started stuffing this one, I'll just finish doing it with some more of this. Turn it upside down is the easiest way to do it. Pin it closed. We'll show you how to roast the turkey in a minute. While I wash my fingers, let me tell you about the third stuffing, which we've done. Details are also on CFAX, which comes from Vermont. It's a mixture of chestnuts and bread and herbs and celery, and it's wonderful cooked on its own as a vegetarian dish.
3 tasty options. Now, the International Academy of Gastronomes is a network of Epicureans dedicated to their stomachs. They're holding a competition in Madrid. Chefs from 15 national organisations are challenged to produce a 3-course meal that best reflects the ingredients and the culture of their country. And King Juan Carlos himself is to give away the prizes. Britain's culinary cohorts are led by Egon Ronay, appropriately, President of the British Academy. And the chosen standard-bearer for our national cuisine is John Burton Race, the brilliant chef proprietor of L'Ortolan, a restaurant at Shinfield near Reading.
Jean-Paul Duquesnoy, Paris, France, mon collaborateur Franck Tripodi.
Lisbeth Bo Jacobsen from Copenhagen, Denmark, the restaurant.
Bruno Hühnermund, and this is my sous chef Bernd Staub, and we come from the Kurhaus in Wiesbaden, Germany.
And I'm Gunnar Forsell, I'm from Stockholm, Sweden.
Fulvio Pierangelini, my wife, Italy.
I am Bessie, this is my sister Tina, and this is our mother. We come from Greece.
John Burton Race from Lawton, a restaurant near Reading, and my associate Nigel Marriage. It's 3 o'clock and I've got the next 5 hours to serve up 3 perfect courses or I don't have a hope. Okay, so these are my grouse. This is what I'm supposed to be cooking tonight. I just hope I've got enough time to do my work. And basically, I'm going to keep these as simple as possible. Just simply roast them, pull the tendons out so all the sinews, remove all the sinews so they're nice and tender, and simply roast it and garnish it with good old traditional baby Brussels sprouts, cream salsify, and some game chips. The sauce is something else. It's a bit special. I'm using an English red wine, would you believe? That's got quite a special flavour. We've got a little bit of a problem here because this chap's stuff is still stuck in customs and he's got to serve within the next 5 hours or something. So I rather him than me. These are Scots oysters. I mean, we buy these from Loch Fyne in Scotland. Just nick it there to remove it from the mussel. Basically, what we're going to do is we remove the oyster from the shell, and we're going to line the shell in Scots smoked salmon. And it's very, very, very good for this dish because it's slightly fatty and very, very moist. I've just got enough time to see what the others are up to, starting with this eel dish.
Yeah. Done with poached eel in a curry sauce and then with rice. It's a speciality of the south of Jutland, right, where they started to ship curries home from East India.
These are semolina quenelles. Yeah, we can show one. Okay. They're made from semolina, right. Semolina quenelles, and then we have veal liver quenelles as well.
And that's all garnished with the soup?
And it all goes into the soup.
So these are the wild vegetables that you put in that little cake there?
Pie.
Yes,
pie.
Little pie,
yes.
Yeah. I think your mother's looking a bit hot and flustered now and a little bit nervous. Is that because she's running out of time?
Yes, exactly. You should be feeling this way too.
I am doing. I better do some work. Everything's now arrived. He's working like a dog, and he's on course to finish at 9:30. This is the grouse. We've wrapped it up in a little of smoked English bacon, and now I'm just going to seal it in hot fat, and it takes about 12 or 13 minutes in a fairly fierce oven. Okay, this is the room where everything is going to be decided tonight. All the judges are going to be sitting here, I think something like 30 of them, deciding our fate. They're representatives of some of the best food critics throughout the whole of Europe, and this is where it all finishes up in about, I think, in about an hour's time. Okay, so this is our first course, the oysters with the Scotch smoked salmon in English wine jelly. It needs another coat of jelly, but apart from that, it's ready. I hope they appreciate it. Well, it's all down to the judges' taste buds now. How it's going, well, we'll have to wait and see. I don't know. I'm too hot and flustered to give a correct sort of opinion at the moment.
He says that it is a marvel, a merveille, and that it was the best main course he has tasted so far tonight.
After the tasting comes the deliberation.
There will be important meetings which will decide who will win the gold, the silver and the bronze medals, and I'm very much hoping, from what I've seen of the others, that the English chef, our own John Burton Race, will come out very well indeed.
They've made their decision and none of us know who's won. We've been summoned to meet King Juan Carlos to find out the results. The agony of waiting. Each of us have to go up one by one to see if we won gold, silver or bronze for our dishes. Finally, it's my turn. I discover I've won 2 golds and a silver, putting me equal first with France and Spain. It shows that England can, when allowed to, compete with the rest of Europe. And gone are the days when the top jobs in this country are going to be taken over by Europeans. And perhaps now they'll start coming to us and eating in our restaurants, as opposed to the Brits going over to Europe thinking that they're the best chefs in Europe.
Marvellous news, and amen to that idea about British chefs getting their turn. I think that's marvellous. Now Christmas, first time turkey I call this. It's the crafty turkey recipe, but it's always first time turkey, because when was the last time you cooked a turkey like this? At Christmas time. Right. Roasting tin, rack. Keep the turkey off the bottom. About half a pint to a pint, depends on the size of your tin and the turkey, but a reasonably good amount of water. Put the turkey onto the rack so it doesn't touch the water, and then squeeze a lemon or half a lemon over the turkey so it gives a little extra flavour. Don't worry about the pips, they'll vanish. Pinch of salt, same of pepper. Put the other half of the lemon in the back end of the turkey. Not an elegant activity, but it does produce flavour and moisture. And then put a tent of buttered foil or butter papers, if you prefer using butter papers, over the top. Don't wrap it in tight, just tuck it in so that the juices go back into the bottom. The reason why this is crafty turkey is it makes its own gravy, the washing up's effortless, and the turkey's wonderfully moist, but no tighter than that. Now then, the recipe requires an average cooking time of about 16 minutes a pound. That depends. If the turkey's big, it requires less minutes per pound. If it's smaller than the average weight, it requires longer. The electricity, fan, gas and Arga timings are all there. When you've cooked the turkey, let me just wipe my fingers. When you've cooked the turkey, it should be perfect and gold. Now we've done it 2 ways. If you'd like to get the gloves on, Chief, I'll I'll give you 5 quick rounds. We've done 2 turkeys. This is the crafty way. The one Chris has got has been cooked the slow method, which is 12 hours at a very low heat, about 3/4 gas.
Smells wonderful.
About 3/4 gas and about 120 centigrade or 240 Fahrenheit. Now we've done the 2 stuffings, and let me get some clean forks.
You ready?
And yes, are you ready? 1, 2, 3,
Like
lift.
synchronised swimming. How exciting.
Yes, I wish I had that nose clip on, actually. I think it would suit you. Let me just show you. The gravy has made itself. You can see effortless and no washing up, because the bottom of the pans, or some washing up, but none of that grim scraping the stuff off. And let's just see how they come out. This is one of the stuffings, and it should, the lovely saffron stuffing with the rice in it. You can see how lovely and golden it looks and how moist the turkey is. And here's the herb stuffing. Let's just take a slice of that. Oh, beautiful, bright. I don't know if you can just adjust the positioning, if I may. Thank you.
That's good.
Lovely, bright green, and again, moist meat, perfectly cooked. Thighs and legs. Sprouts and chestnuts cooked together, marvellous. Roast and mashed potatoes, great traditional accompaniments. And this is my family's favourite. It's candied sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes boiled, little sprinkling of cinnamon and sugar on top, baked for a couple of minutes under the grill. Perfect accompaniment.
Seems a shame you have to wait 3 weeks to eat it. Now here's Julie with some fizz.
Champagne gets its name from a precise region northeast of Paris, and only wines from here can be called champagne. It starts life like most wines. The grapes are pressed and fermented in large vats. Then starts the magic. To create the tiny bubbles in the wine, it's bottled with a little added mixture of yeast and sugar to prompt a second fermentation. The bottles are stored in cool cellars while the yeast gets to work, creating the bubbles and throwing a sediment. They're then gently shaken and rotated each day by hand or machine to coax the sediment onto the cork. The cork's then fired out of the bottle along with the sediment, usually after it's been frozen. Finally, the bottle's topped up with a little wine syrup to round it off. That highly labour-intensive and expensive method may have been perfected in Champagne, but in fact it's used the world over to make the very best sparkling wines. And as I warned you, we're looking at nothing but the best today, I warn you. Now, we've got 4 wines to recommend to you, 1 Champagne and 3 other sparklers made elsewhere in the world, but taking that same painstaking method to heart. Oz, Champagne first.
Yeah, I mean, sparkling wine's got to make me feel happy. It's got to make my eyes light up. It's got to make me buzz. Otherwise, I don't want it. But we have got a good bargain champagne this year, and it's called Nicole d'Origny, and it comes from Morrison's, and it's got a nice deep colour, and it's actually got a nice sort of ripe, full smell to it as well. It foams, it's got tons of life, but the flavour in the mouth is creamy, honeyed, very, very nice, very ripe, very lively. This is what cheap champagne should be all about, so well done, Morrison's.
Yes, it is a very good price, and of surprises, the next wine we're coming to comes from New Zealand. It's not a champagne, but it's £1 more. It's Daniel Lebrun Méthode Champenoise. That means it's made in the same method as champagne. And it's $9.99, and you can tell why when you look at it and when you get your nose in the glass. Can you see it there? This is a real straw-coloured wine. Now, I'll tell you why. It's because it's deeply mature. I can't tell you. Get your nose in and you smell the smell of old champagne. If it did come from Champagne, it would be more than twice the price, I tell you. Instead, it's made by a chap who went from Champagne down to New Zealand, and he made this using the same grapes, the same method, and he's made it in the old, mature champagne style. And I tell you, it's custom made for the Brits. We love old champagne here, and if you love old champagne, this is your wine. $9.99. It's absolutely magical. Really, really heavy flavours in there, but fizzy with it. Lovely.
It's absolutely brilliant stuff. Now, look, there was a time when non-champagne sparklers were pretty dire stuff, and champagne was always the superior wine. This absolutely shows it is not like that anymore. Champagne is merely the most famous sparkling wine. Sometimes it's the best, but all around the world, in New Zealand, in Australia, in California, in other parts of France, excellent wines are being made, and they're almost always a damn sight cheaper. And one point I really want to make, if you don't want to buy champagne this Christmas, if you don't want to pay a champagne price, you don't have to. You're not being a cheapskate, maybe you're just showing a little bit of common sense.
Hang on a minute. The non-champagne wine was a quid more than the champagne.
But this one, Dilly, tastes like a sort of £20 champagne. Now, I've got one here, which doesn't taste like a £20 champagne, but it comes from New Zealand again. And it says New Zealand again. New Zealand is really one of the up-and-coming countries for wines of every sort. This is pink, beautiful pink, lovely sort of coral pink. It smells of strawberries and blackcurrants and... foams in your mouth, it's got lovely freshness, it's got a line of sort of blackcurrant fruit running through it. It's the same grapes as champagne, it's made in the same method, it comes from 13,000 miles away and it's only £6.99. Don't ask me why, but buy it and enjoy it.
Actually, pink is really not only a pretty colour, but also friendlifies a sparkling wine. Often you'll find them a little bit more approachable than some of the white equivalents. Now I'm moving on to my next glass, here, mustn't get them muddled, which is a Blanc de Noir Crémant de Bourgogne, £6.25 from Waitress. Now, I'll tell you something about this one. At this mammoth blind tasting we did, I got my nose in this glass, I tasted it, and I wrote it down as champagne. I tell you, it's like champagne in every respect. It is delicious. It's got an appley, creamy, toasty bouquet. Mouth-filling. Nothing mean and green about it. Blanc de Noir actually means white of black. It should be made entirely from black grapes. It isn't. It's got 50% Chardonnay in there as well. It's like a really delicious, mature again champagne. Nothing angular about it, not sharp, and a very, very good buy at the price. And I think Oz has got a little tip for you as well on the side.
There's just one wine which I absolutely adore. It's called Claret de Die. It's pure grape juice. It's relatively dry. It's bubbling and foaming, and it's brilliantly fruity. I love it.
Yes, the off-dry style. And finally, one tip. All these wines were a bit expensive for parties. You can get away with buying much cheaper fizz than that. And I'll tell you my tip. If you mix it 50-50 with orange juice into a Bucks fizz, buy the most expensive fresh-pressed orange juice you can and economise on the fizz. Absolutely nobody will know.
And Gilly and Oz have chosen another 3 or 4 wines for Christmas, the details of which you can find on CFAX. Now for some present ideas, the cutting edge of presents, actually, a whole lot of ideas with knives. This is a marvellous new style of cheese knife. You can see them in various prices, but the key thing is the holes in it. And that's because when you cut cheese, even soft cheese, which normally is impossible to get off the knife, it just falls off because there's nothing to cling on to. Very neat indeed. These are a range of Japanese knives. They're called Global. They're made of surgical steel, incredibly sharp, beautifully balanced. Chefs are starting to buy them now. One of the great advantages is they're very thin, although they're very strong, so you can get very delicate cutting with them as well. This is a scissors that's self-sharpening. It's a very powerful scissors. It's almost like a poultry shears with a notch for the bone cutting as well. But the nice thing about it is when you put it back into its storage system, it sharpens it. And speaking of sharpening, how about this? It looks like a steel, but in fact, although it is a steel, it's coated with very fine diamonds. There's a smaller, flatter version as well, and it's so powerful that a couple of strokes like that will bring the edge back to almost any knife. And if you fancy something a little more technological, there's this. It's called the Chef's Choice, and it both grinds the knife, just lay it in and bring it back like that, 2 or 3 times, and it hones it as well. A lighter grinding wheel in there, I think. And that, too, produces the most terrific edge.
Michael Barry, Close to the Edge. Next week sees the return of the Food and Drink Christmas quiz, packed with practical Christmas ideas. For instance, and the year?
I was really going to fly on that. The year? H2.
Very good.
This one smells like it's from the Moselle in Germany.
Good enough, 1 point.
It's from the Riesling grape.
Yeah, well done. 2 points.
I remember it well. And this year, Oz and I are going to torture each other with red and white wines to go with turkey. Here, Oz, is a clue. That's not yours.
It's Horlicks.
Impressive, isn't he? And Michael will again be cooking against the clock, like this.
And then when you finish turning it all, it's all coated in a nice brown sauce.
7,
you just tip it
5,
quietly
4, 3, 2, 1,
into the thing.
0.
And I'll be joined by Chef Brian Turner to cook up delicious party food and to solve that perennial problem, what to do with all the leftover turkey. Any ideas, Chris?
Several, but not for daytime television. Joining in the fun are 2 special guests, comics and foodies, Sandy Toksvig and Patrick Barlow. So do be sure to join us for 2 special food and drink quizzes over the next couple of weeks. Until then, from all of us, goodbye.
Michael Barry's advice on how to cook the perfect Christmas turkey is included in the new issue of BBC Good Food magazine.